No matter how much you plan, most of us are going to experience life differently in retirement. And here are some surprises that we may find in retirement. Number one, you're going to make it work, and you're actually going to be much happier in retirement than you thought you were. You're going to be surprisingly more happy. That is what some surveys have found, that Americans who retire are just much happier. And what one study has found, there are two peaks in your life where you're the happiest. And one is in your mid-20s, and the other is in your early 70s. Yeah, in your early 70s, you're the happiest. So look forward to retirement because it may be the happiest time in your life. Number two surprise is many healthcare costs are going to be out of pocket. For a single who's 65 years old, the average that you're going to pay for medical expenses out of your pocket is $157,500. For a couple, a 65-year-old couple, it's $315,000. And that's what you're going to be expected to pay out of your pocket for medical expenses from the age 65 until you pass. Now, those costs are going to include your premiums on your healthcare insurance, your co-insurance, your prescription plans, long-term healthcare. That's all bundled together. So it is a big number, but a lot of that you probably already have budgeted, and you may need to look at that and kind of figure out a 30-year retirement and figure out if you have enough budgeted in, especially that healthcare costs if you're not 65 yet and on Medicare. And the third thing is that the divorce rate for people over 50 has really skyrocketed in the last few decades. So back in the 1990s, people who were getting divorced in their 50s was 1 in 10 people. Since then, it has grown to 1 in 4 couples who are getting divorced in their 50s. So divorce is one thing that can really just devastate your retirement plan. Because all of a sudden you're thinking you have enough money, but now you got to split it in half and divide. And you know what? 2 people can live in one house a lot cheaper than they can live in 2 houses. So it's going to be really hard for you to execute that retirement plan if you get a divorce later in life. The fourth surprise is figuring out that time is more valuable than money. Yeah. And it really is. When you stop and think about it, you can always find a way to make more money or to cut back on your spending, but you can never make time. You can't buy time with your money. So you got to make sure that you're living your life to the fullest and take that money and squeeze all the life and all the time you can out of the money that you have. A lot of people who, go into retirement and everything about the retirement is financial and it's all about the money. And then once you get into retirement, you start figuring out, especially if you have a close call or a health scare, you figure out really quick that, time is worth a whole lot more than your money. So take that money, squeeze every little bit you can out of it, and enjoy your retirement. Number 5 is that you may get forced into retirement. Yeah, it happens a lot. Half of Americans are being forced into retirement before they're actually ready. And a lot of that is because of health reasons. Some of it is because of layoffs. Others are being given, early retirement packages, which may not hurt them that much, but still, it's earlier than they had planned. So you got to go into what's called a bridged retirement. And a bridged retirement is basically where you're going to have to go in and get some part-time work or bridge the gap between when you thought you were going to retire and when you did retire. So, I always say to go ahead and plan on retiring earlier than you want to, right? So if you're thinking, I'm going to retire at full retirement age at 67, plan to retire at 62. And that way, if things don't work out, you have a fallback position and you've probably saved a little more aggressively. And if you do end up working till you're 67 because you like your work and things are good for you and you do work till you're 67, well, you just gained that much more. But either way, you're ready to retire at 62. Number 6, although you're probably going to really like retirement, studies have found that retirees are 40% more likely to become clinically depressed after retirement. And that just in general, retirees are twice as likely to feel some sort of depression and depression-like symptoms. So be careful with that. Be careful with depression. And remember, you're retired. You're on your own time. And, just try to remember that these are your golden years and you worked hard for this and you should be rewarded for all your hard work and efforts. 7th thing is overspending in the first few years of retirement. Yeah, believe it or not, people overspend in their first few years of retirement. Well, why do we do that? We got our bucket list. We want to travel. Our health is good. These are your most healthiest years. These are your go-go years. So overspending the first few years of retirement is actually, it's pretty common. And if you budgeted right, you budgeted so that you have more money for travel and bucket list items in your go-go years as your slow-go years, where you calm down a little bit and you can cut back on some of that. So when you're building your budget, make sure and put money in there just for the extra travel and the bucket list things. And remember, I'm not a financial advisor, so if you need professional help, seek out a fiduciary fee-only financial advisor and have a retirement plan built just for you. And the 8th thing is the most common complaint from retirees is boredom and feeling irrelevant. And that can lead to, like I mentioned before, symptoms of depression, and it can also lead to excess alcohol consumption. You may not think about it, but because you're retired, you may think, well, I'm going to go ahead and have a glass of wine or pop a top on a beer. It's nearly 3 o'clock. It's close to 5 o'clock, so let's go ahead. So what you'll find is you may find yourself starting to drink earlier and earlier in the day. The other thing that could happen to you, and it's not necessarily about drinking, but you could flip your days and nights. And that's something that's fairly common with people who don't have purpose and value in their retirement, is they flip their days and nights and they end up staying up all night surfing on the web and watching TV, and then they sleep all day long. So that's not a good thing. You want to try to keep yourself relevant and keep yourself out of that boredom scenario that's just not good for anybody. Okay, so I hope you've gotten some value out of this video, and if you have, please reach down and hit that like button and watch this video next.